of that amount of that unit or units for that player at a location, at one location to a second location. So if we were to, since we put all, since I'll change it in a second. So if we were to bring to that location, what that will do is it will automatically tell. So what we did basically is any units that touch this location will automatically teleport to this location. It's basically a moving trigger. Mutant unit speech, pretty much what that does is all non-trigger unit speech, when, like, you know, the Marines are going like, "We gotta move, are you gonna give me orders?" Everything is muted for the time being. There's another trigger you can use to unmute it. Order is a different thing. For example, we will assign. For example, what happens is it basically gives a command, an automatic command to a unit. So we're going to have it. So we're going to change what we did earlier. We're going to assign another. Player 1 will bring a quantity of 1 unit men to location. Location 1 is down there, back at our base. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create an order command. Issue order to all men at for player 1 at location 1 at order. Order means that it will give that the game automatically gives these units these orders. So you have move, which basically will move that unit to that location. Patrol, which means that unit will go to that location, then go back to location 1, and go back to that location again, and will attack any enemy on site. And attack means that these guys will attack all enemy units that get in its way on site. And that's what the order command is. Pause game freezes game. It does not. The game will not move until an unpause command trigger is given. Pause timer pauses the countdown timer.
Mike's a bitch.
That's okay, Nikki. I can actually mute you out. Every effort you make will always end in failure with me. Play wave. When you assign that, you get to play. You get to play any sound bites that you updated. Any sound bites that you uploaded into the map will be played now. We've already shown you how to do that. Preserve trigger is a nice trigger. It's a nice trigger command. What preserve trigger does is you assign that at triggers. You assign that trigger at the end of certain triggers that you want. For example, let's say, because the truth about triggers is that the truth about triggers is these things will only occur one time. Like if the F7 is 5 seconds, she'll minimap ping for that. That will only happen one time in game. Putting a preserve trigger thing at the end of that forces this always to happen. Forces that this will always happen no matter what. So that means all the time you will be always center viewing on there, and you will always have a minimap ping, which is annoying. So it's not. However, that means it doesn't end. So you need to assign preserve triggers at the right times. Just assign random shit here. Okay. Remove unit means that they remove the units from play. They are not removing the units from play. Do not count them as kills. Therefore, certain other triggers may not activate. Remove units of location is the same thing before, except you just remove the unit. Except you're just removing the things. Now running AI scripts is actually difficult. We're going to get into scripting later. Alliance status. What happened? You can assign. This is where you can assign alliance status. So let's say that we used a bring command, where you bring a certain amount of units at one location to another location, and you create to another location. You can assign them as then another thing that you set. Then you can assign another pair of units that you set at a location. Then you can assign another player who might be at the location to be your ally. So let's say we brought the bring command. We got to that location. You set whatever player that you want in the alliance status. Enemy means that they become an enemy. Ally means they join up as an ally. Allied victory means not only do they join up as an ally, but if you accomplish a certain trick, not only will you win if you accomplish a victory trigger, but so will they. Think about that for multiplayer games. Countdown timer. This sets the countdown timer. This indicates of how. This will indicate to you how the count. This will indicate. This is how to get a countdown timer up. Let's say we do that bring command again. We brought to a location. We will set. Again, there's those mathematical operators. We will set, add, or subtract automatic, so that we'll either add time, subtract time, or set the timer, and the number of seconds. Once a countdown timer, and then the number of seconds. The countdown timer is not displayed in milliseconds, so you have to set it for actual time. Also, you must remember that countdown timer. Also, you have to remember that the countdown timer automatically starts going down as soon as it's assigned, and will vanish the moment it's out, unless a pause countdown timer trigger is given. Remember that if you pause the game, the countdown timer will still go, so make sure you pause the timer too. Set deaths. You can modify the death counter. Set deaths lets you modify the death counter for stuff like that. That's only if you're using a leaderboard. Doodad state is another advanced option. We're not using that. You're not going to be using that. That's for that's for installation type maps. We may not get in. We may not get into that. I might just let you talk to me over PMs about how to set those. But those let you set doodads states for those let you set the doodads for stuff in installations like the floor traps and stuff. Enabling those, that way you can enable the traps, which means that they turn on the stuff, which means they would turn on like those floor turrets. Disable, which would turn off the floor turrets, or toggle them. It all depends on what you want. We're not going to get into doodad state. You may not even be making those maps. There's not too many installation type maps anyway. Invincibility lets you set the invincibility status. For example, you go to a location, then once you get to that location, all of your units, you make your units become invincible. Then you can assign that units become invincible at that location. So set enable means it's turned on. Those units become invulnerable and cannot be attacked. It cannot be attacked or targeted. Disable, which means they're basically units, or toggle, which means it turns on and off. And then the unit thing, player, option, and then location. So you could basically mission objectives. I've already told you this before. There's basically when you pause the game and look at the mission objectives from there, that just lets you see the mission objectives in the text. Set next scenario. This is an interesting thing. What happens is, if you have another map, if you were making like a campaign stuff, and you have a map that occurs after that map, just remember where I showed you.